Title: Voices in the Wind. When Valeria moved to the small coastal town, she never imagined that her life would take such a radical turn. She came from a big city, with its hustle and bustle, looking for a quiet place where he could find some peace. The city seemed the perfect refuge, with its cobblestone streets and softly colored houses. But it was in that small city where he met Danielle, and with him the kind of love that consumes you without warning. The first time she saw him was on the dock, where he was looking at the sea. The wind played with his dark and untidy hair, and the lost gaze at the horizon seemed to carry a sadness that she did not understand. Valeria, at first, only observed him in silence, as if something in him called her, as if it were reflected in his eyes. Something that she also felt but could not understand. He was a complicated man, marked by pain and wrong decisions. And although the people of the town spoke of him with some caution, Valeria could not help but feel attracted to Daniel's figure, to his mystery, to that shadow of melancholy that enveloped him. One afternoon, while walking near the dock, she dared to approach he. She didn't know why, but something pushed her to do it. "Do you mind if I sit down?" Valeria asked, pointing to the bench next to him. Daniel looked at her for a moment. His eyes were dark like the sea in the moonless nights. Without saying a word, he nodded and with a slight gesture invited her to sit down. They didn't need words to share the silence. Several days passed in which Valeria returned to the pier, always searching for the answers that Daniel never gave. He only sat beside him, sharing that space, without pressure. With time, he began to notice that his presence changed him. Sometimes, a shy smile appeared on his face, and other times, his eyes shone with a deep sadness, as if he were fighting against something he could not control. One afternoon, after a long silencio, Daniel spoke. "People know nothing about me," he said, looking at the sea. "They think I am someone who only seeks to be lost in oblivion, but it is not so. I have done things I regret, things that I can't erase." Valeria observed him, without completely understanding, but she felt an instant empathy. At that moment, she knew that something tormented him, something much bigger than what he was. "It's hard to say. Sometimes, the things we can't forget define us more than we'd like," she replied softly. Daniel looked at her, surprised by her words. He didn't expect someone, and especially someone so new in his life, could understand him so well. The connection between them, although subtle, was real. With the passing of the days, they began to spend more time together. Their talks in the pier extended until late at night. Valeria, although she never admitted it, was beginning to fall in love with Daniel's depth, with the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of his childhood, or how fragile he seemed when he mentioned his family. But there was something that always remained in the shadows of his words, a wound so deep that he had never been able to gnaw. One afternoon, while walking along the beach, Valeria asked him again, "What happened, Daniel? Why do you hurt yourself with your own memories?" He sighed and for the first time seemed willing to open his heart. "A few years ago I lost someone very important to me. Someone I thought would be in my life forever. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I shut myself off, in my guilt. And now, all I have is the wind and the sea." His words broke as if reliving the pain of that moment. "I don't want you to think I'm weak, Valeria. But I don't know if once I will be able to let go of what I lost." Valeria remained silent, knowing that that confession was deeper than he could have expected. He was a man trapped by his own pain, searching the way to free himself but still without finding the way out. "You are not weak, Daniel. You are human. We all carry something, we all have our own battles." He took her hand gently. You need to let go of the past to move forward. You only need to learn to live with it." Daniel looked at her, and in his eyes there was a mixture of gratitude and doubt. Perhaps he didn't completely understand what I wanted to say, but there was something in his words that made him feel, for the first time in a long time, that perhaps there could be a future after the storm. The love between them began to grow, but with him, Daniel's internal struggle also did. Despite Valeria's efforts to help him, he could not let go of the past. Every time he seemed to approach her, fear and guilt pushed him away. Jaban to move away, to rebuild his wall of solitude. One day, after weeks of distance, Daniel appeared again on the dock. Valeria was there, as always, waiting. When he approached, he didn't need words to understand that something had changed. "I'm leaving, Valeria," he said with a firm but broken voice. I can't continue being the man you deserve. My past consumes me, and I fear that drag me with you. Valeria couldn't hold back the tears. She knew it was a farewell, but she didn't want to accept it. You don't have to leave, Daniel. You don't have to do it alone. Her words were a whisper. Uro, a silent plea. He looked at her one last time, and in her eyes he saw the same sadness that had always been there. But something had changed in him, something that told him he wasn't ready for Avazar. I'm sorry, Valeria. Maybe someday. His words faded with the wind, and at that moment, she knew that her love, although real, was not enough to save him from himself. Valeria. He remained on the dock, watching Daniel's figure move away, knowing that some stories do not end as we expect, but that they always leave a mark on the heart. End, subscribe and comment.